Hey guys, I'm just going to put together this short clip um, of me waffling on about what I look for and how I prepare to develop an individual to be a part of an offensive line and ultimately to develop the unit and to work within system and things like that, and then to get into the nitty gritty of systems and blocking schemes, which I know a lot of teams have been asking me for. Apologies in providing the information, but although I've got a lot of videos that I've done, obviously for teams, my team, which was last season, the Tamworth Phoenix, I just felt that probably you needed to look at the kind of the way I think and how I install it from start to finish. Because if you're a budding offensive lineman, or if you're an OC, or even a head coach that maybe works as an offensive line coach, or even if you're looking to develop an offensive line coach, maybe you'll just be able to find bits that are useful to be able to pass on. Again, I've been involved in the sport since 1987, both as a player and as a coach. Worked with some great guys, worked with some not so great guys, and I've just taken the experience, and if it's something I can give, pass on, then hey, why not? So I just thought I'd probably throw this video together of me waffling on a bit. So just bear with me on this. That there is a purpose to it. I suppose I'll call this video an introduction to developing an offensive line. And what it'll do, guys, is just cover the mindset, but also as well just a few of the simple, really key tools that I like to use to develop muscle memory and habits with your individuals and offensive line. First and foremost, as an offense, let's look at ourselves as individuals, because I think to be a good coach, you have to be able to have the ability to constantly self-assess. Really, really, really important. And it doesn't matter how you do that. It doesn't matter how you do it. It's whether you growl, whether you hibernate and do it quietly, whether you reflect. We probably, all of us, do an element of that at some point as coaches, regardless of who we are. However, if you are a genuine offensive line coach, if you are a genuine person that understands offensive line, and I don't think a lot of people do. I don't think a lot of people do. But if you are genuinely a person that understands it, yeah, you definitely go through a whole series of emotions, both on a day-to-day basis, but also a snap-to-snap basis, but on an individual basis, depending on who you're working with. There's a whole heap of stuff that goes on. To coach offensive line, it really is a truly unique position, because the clue's in the name. You're not only coaching individuals, you are coaching a bunch of individuals to become a unit, to become one, five guys, one mindset. Okay, really important. Or obviously 6 or 7, depending on what system you're working in. But ultimately, that's what you're looking to achieve. So there's so many levels that you've got to be able to think on constantly. So as an individual, you have to be able to have that ability. As an individual, you also have to understand what your end goal is, not necessarily where you're at, where you're starting. Ultimately, have an end goal. Find something that you can hang your hat on and believe in it. Okay, don't be a wishy-washy coach. Don't say this is great, I'm looking to please my guys today, so I'm going to do something different. Because you know what? Yeah, it's all got to be enjoyable and fun. Fuck all that shit. If they can't get out the stance, you fucking coach them getting out the stance. Okay? Good fundamentals is the absolute key to winning offensive line. It doesn't matter. Good fundamentals is the key, full stop. However, we're talking about offensive line today. Okay, so don't go and watch YouTube, find out a great video, and then just go and install it and expect you guys to go to a game and do it. You know what? You're not doing your guys any favours. In fact, you're selling them short, you're hanging them out to dry, and you're just being a fraud. Don't be a fraud. There's a lot of frauds in Brickball. Don't be a fraud. Coach honest. Put it in. Put everything you've got into developing that individual. Get the end goal, okay? Don't be the guy that sits there on Facebook, on YouTube, and saying, you know what, we lost by 40 points, but we had a great experience. Okay? Bullshit. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. If you want to be a champion, if you want to develop champions, and it doesn't matter about winning the championship, this is the key, okay? If you truly want your guys to develop, if you truly want your guys' eyes to light up when they master that one little thing they couldn't master yesterday, when they dominate the guy that they couldn't dominate last week, when they beat their friend in that one snap that they couldn't do for the last 5 weeks. It doesn't matter what the goal is, okay? As long as you can get your guys to a point where they understand the simple philosophy of winning through competition. This is the key. Winning through competition. It has to start individually. As long as you can get your guys understanding that, as long as you can get your guys understanding that a good, solid work ethic based on good fundamentals and foundations is key, that's when you will win games, win individual battles, develop a bunch of guys that are fundamentally sound. I'm not saying perfect, I'm saying sound, okay? Only when you understand that, you'll get to a point where you can really kind of enjoy the kind of rewards that hard work brings, and sacrifice, okay? We don't sacrifice our time to lose 50-0. We don't sacrifice our time to be an 0-8 team. We're not them guys, okay? Every single one of us wants to win, unless you want to be a participation coach. And if that's your philosophy, you really shouldn't be watching this video, okay? So guys, we're going to just go into the mindset of what I look at to develop a kind of an offensive system, an offensive line, and a bunch of individuals that I want to develop to be able to win their individual battles, which will ultimately help the team and in fact enable the team. Without the offensive line it doesn't happen, but enable the team to win games. Okay, so first and foremost, you are presented with your playbook, okay, and it looks all great, all the X's and O's. If you're an experienced offensive line coach, you are given a playbook without any X's and O's, and you're asked to put the blocking scheme in place. However, we're going to assume that everybody that I'm talking to just really wants to try and develop or use some of the information that I've got to be able to build it into their systems. So first and foremost is to understand what your OC or head coach, depending on who's your immediate coach, is looking at. And just as important, understand what he understands and understand what the end goal is per snap, per system, per play. Okay, the arrow might point that way, but you know what? Have I got a reach block? Have I got a zone block? Have I got to do this? Have I got to do that? Is understand the blocking scheme, okay? Understand what you need to do in order to be able to achieve and put your guys in the best possible position to achieve the outcome, which is to move another bunch of guys off the line of scrimmage to get your running backs or your quarterback yards or your receivers. Okay, it's pretty simple when you break it down, but it's a lot more complex when you talk about schemes and things like that. But the key is understand what your OC and head coach is looking at. Okay, so that's the most important thing. From that point then is to, once you understand what they're looking at, is to believe in yourself as a coach. To develop yourself as a coach, you have to go through a whole lot of shit. You have to make a whole bunch of mistakes. You have to go through a whole lot of pain, unfortunately. Which again, going back to my point about, you have to be able to reflect. You have to be able to kind of be the person that stands on that island and have the guys, fire arrows at you, because ultimately you're on your own as an offensive line coach. Nobody really understands it. Even ex-offensive linemen that are now coaches, not a lot of people really get it. Okay, so and unfortunately you're in a position where not a lot of offensive linemen get it unless they are natural, absolute natural beasts that want to compete. Maybe you're in a Division 1, Division 2 team that maybe don't have maybe not blessed with a whole bunch of guys that want to compete and maybe just want to turn up, but nevertheless want to win games that just don't quite understand how to win games or the individual battles. So you've got to go through that bit of pain where, yeah, you've got to make mistakes and you've got to go on that journey with these bunch of guys, okay? But ultimately, if you hang your hat on a system, if you hang your hat on a bunch of drills, stick to it. That's as simple as that. Think fundamentals. Fundamentals is the absolute key, and you've got to be absolutely selfish in the end goal. All too often we see now in Britain, and to be honest, some of the guys that I talk to over the pond and around that do talk to me, we watch a YouTube video and yeah, wow, it looks great. I'm going to go and install this on Sunday in 20 minutes and expect my guys to run out and to dominate the guy in front of them. It don't happen. All these videos that you're looking at, when you understand systems and when you hang your hat on something, a lot of these things that are thrown out on YouTube, when you break them down, ultimately are a bunch of the same systems or the same blocking philosophies. It's just an interpretation of a particular coach that wants to run it a certain way. Maybe a little twist, maybe this, maybe that. So you have to have the ability to be able to take little bits of information and make something your own, which is what I'm saying. Hang your hat on something and stick to it. Enable your offensive coordinator or your head coach to understand your end goal, which is why you have to be able to understand their end goal and to be able to come into the middle. If you're working with a coach that maybe doesn't quite get it and he's putting a lot of pressure on you, you have to be the guy that kind of stands on that island and you just got to soldier through, okay? Because results bring understanding, results bring respect, okay? And you have to be able to achieve that through being single-minded as an offensive line coach. It's the most thankless position on the pitch, and you need to be able to understand that, and you need to be able to drive that through the bunch of guys that you're working with. Okay, so just have a bunch of simple kind of things that you work to before you even get on the pitch. Okay, so understand what the playbook is, understand what your OC and head coach is looking at. From that point, understand what you need to do in terms of what you need to hang your hat on, okay, in terms of how do I want to achieve, okay, and get to that end goal, which is whether it's an outside zone, whether it's an inside zone, whether it's a dive, whether it's it doesn't matter what it is. What do I need to be able to do to be able to achieve that? Stick to 2 or 3 simple drills and hang your hat on it. Don't move off it. Don't be swayed by YouTube and NFL and this and that and the other. You have 20 minutes to be able to impact the individual to a point where he can impact the team and the unit. It's a massive, massive, massive ask. Okay. Once you get to that point, is gather a series of equipment around you to be able to achieve that. Okay. We'll talk about being fundamentally sound and everything else when we do systems and things like that. But there's a bunch of simple things that I use, and I'll explain why now to be able to achieve the end goal. And although I didn't use it much in Tamworth this season, or the season just gone, through time constraints and things like that, nevertheless we did start to use them. Okay, so the first and foremost piece of equipment that I like to use is the simple bucket. This cost about 90p from Homebase or your local hardware shop. At the most it'll cost £1. And the reason why I like to use buckets, I also like to use bins for the guys that I've coached before. When I'm doing my one-on-one sessions and in private sort of coaching sessions, I like to use buckets. And the reason why I like to use buckets is, let's just put it down there. You have to excuse me, guys. I'm doing this in my living room. The reason why I like to use buckets, if you're running, it's an object. It's an object that you have to move around. It's not a cone where you can step over. You have to physically move around it. okay, or over the top of it. If we're looking to step, I have to physically open my hips to move around or over the top of this particular bucket. I can't cheat, I can't run through it. I have to physically open my hips, I have to sink my hips, I have to put the weight, okay, on my glutes and on my thighs, okay. It forces great power angles. If you're coaching, obviously your good points of chest proud, arch your back, eyes up, etc, etc. So what it does, guys, it forces all these simple coaching points, and this is why I like to use simple buckets, okay. It doesn't matter what you're using, what block it is, it forces simple points. If you're running zone, obviously you take your first step, you take your power step, etc. If you're running a reach block and you're looking to get the outside leverage, you can force that outside leverage, okay, by getting your outside hip on the inside hip of the bucket, okay. What it does do, guys, it forces muscle memory, okay, and that's the most important thing. Cones are great, but what they don't do is force a realistic spatial awareness and understanding of what an object is. I also like to work with dustbins, because again, you have to physically move around it. I also like to get people picking them up, which forces the thumbs up, elbows in philosophy. And again, it's just an object, okay? It's an object that you have to physically move, because okay? Football starts here, okay? It really does start here. We could talk about feet, we could talk about everything else, but unless I understand what an object is, unless I understand where I have to put my feet, okay, it's really, really, really important, okay, to understand what I need to do up here, okay. The other simple tool I like to use is a medicine ball. You can buy these, I think they cost about £14 from Sports Direct. 3 kilos, so it's a nice weight. I can feel it when I'm pushing it, but more importantly, the reason why I like these ones, guys, it's slightly smaller than a regular sized medicine ball, and it kind of emulates a chest plate, okay. What a medicine ball does is replace your blocking shields with medicine balls, okay. Blocking shields are this wide. I've never met an offensive lineman that blocks that wide, and if they do, everything's wrong, okay. So what a medicine ball does, to physically grip this ball, my thumbs have to be up. So if I'm being thrown the ball and I'm catching it, my thumbs have to be up. If I'm coaching a drive block, you can get the guy that's holding it, just do that, okay. If I'm the guy that's blocking, again, you see we're in that position where my thumbs are up, I'm gripping, I'm squeezing my elbows in, everything's good, but I'm driving up, through the hips, through the glutes, from the floor up. And a medicine ball does a great job of that. If I'm working pass protection, you have to engage your hips in pass protection, guys, and in run as well, but obviously I have got video clips of this, but again, it forces, especially in pass pro, squeezing them elbows in. You know, if you're catching the ball, I'm in this position where I'm catching the ball, obviously I'm catching at the end of the movement, just kind of simulating that I'm at the strike point of a defender running at me. So you catch but if you're pushing it to the next guy, you know, you're keeping your feet busy throughout the movement, whether you're working horizontally or vertically. I'm releasing at this point here, but as you can see, my hips are naturally extending, my elbows are squeezed in, but my thumbs are more importantly up. This is the key point. It's automatically working my hips. What I have seen is a lot of videos of various things, horrible things happening where they've got the offensive lineman picking the ball up from the floor, my back's like this, my eyes are down, and throwing it over the top of my head and trying to simulate a block. You know what, guys, don't watch all that nonsense. every block, whether you're defence or offence, starts from the hips up. Yeah, it should never come past there. Starts from the hips up. Catching a simple medicine ball at the correct points, the strike points and things like that, really forces, this is the key, great habits. Great habits, okay? As long as you're consistent, you're almost there within the game within Britain, okay? So 2 simple tools there that I like to use to be able to force good habits, to be able to allow me to achieve great fundamentals, which allow me to achieve the end goal, which is something you can hang your hat on, which is the system. So find out what blocking scheme and system that you're comfortable with, hang your hat on it, develop a series of drills and stick to them. Absolutely stick to them. Unselfishly stick to them. If you're in a position where you work in a practice planner and you're working in 5-minute blocks, okay, if they achieve that one particular point, getting out the stance, snapping their eyes up, elbows in, thumbs up, extending the hips, bulling the neck, all these little points that you're looking for, if they achieve that, great. If they're achieving that as a unit, even better. This is what you've got to look at. Once they achieve that, maybe you can reduce that particular drill to 4 minutes, to 2 minutes, to 1 minute, and then introduce another drill. But until you achieve great fundamentals, do not move off it. It's really, really, really simple. Okay, the key is developing a good offensive line, is develop mindset, understand what your coach is looking for, work within a structure, a system that you're comfortable with and you understand, and more importantly, you can hang your hat on. Okay, don't move off it, stick to it, be comfortable with it. Underneath that, develop a set of drills that you're comfortable with, get a practice planner, work in 5-minute blocks. If you've got to spend a little bit more time in the first couple of weeks on stance and starts, for example, you know what? Over the next few weeks, you're going to reduce it to 4 minutes, to 3 minutes, to 2 minutes. Always work under pressure. If you guys are not particularly conditioned, get them hustling, get them working under pressure. As long as you're forcing good habits under pressure, you can work to high reps. That forces conditioning. But more importantly, this brings me on to my next point, is when they come to a scrimmage, when they come to the one-on-one battles, when they just come to working when they're tired, okay, they are mentally tough enough to be able to deal with that particular pressure or level of pressure that is emitted to them at that particular time. So it's whether you're pushing them, whether they've got a great defensive guy in front of them, whether they've got a stronger defensive guy in front of them, whether they get to a scrimmage and now they've got to work the combo blocks or the double teams or whatever it is, they can work under pressure, which is achieving the end goal of when they get to a game day, they can move people around and be comfortable in doing that. Unfortunately, the last thing I want to talk about is really trying to establish yourself as a coach. What is your coaching style? My coaching style is very fair, but very, some will call it tough, some will call it unforgiving, but I know what I want to get out of my guys. I believe, and this is my true belief, that everything I've talked about achieves the one thing, which is enable my individual, my unit, to be the best that they possibly can be, and then, and only then, can they achieve the absolute satisfaction of not only winning their individual battles, and that can be individual battles with themselves in terms of trying to win that particular, trying to achieve that particular drill that wasn't great at a few weeks ago. Gaining that kind of level of confidence, seeing their eyes light up, seeing the bulb moments, you know, that light bulb moment when it goes on, when they pancake somebody, or when they put somebody on their arse, or when they get that touchdown and it just happens to be over their hole. It doesn't matter which way you look at it, interpret it. It all ends up in the same place. Is to develop winners, to develop champions. The only way to do that, I believe, is to Get all your individuals to a point where they understand what is absolutely needed of them as an offensive line, which is to have the best work ethic on the team, to understand that they are under the most pressure on the team. Everybody's under pressure, but you know what? If you've got a bunch of guys who've got to read fronts, they've got to get to the line of scrimmage, they've got to drive 300-pound guys off the line, they've got to understand where the mic is, they've got to do this, they've got to pick up stunts, they've got to do everything. And on top of that as well, if they do it wrong, they're going to get a flag, and that's when they're going to get noticed. Okay, the game really does, whether that's a game within themselves or whether that's a game on a Sunday or a Saturday, it really does start and stop with the offensive line. The only way, I believe, to get them guys to be natural competitors, if they already are not, is to work them under pressure. Okay, get them understanding that we train as we fight. Get them training hard. Get them training hard on the practice field. When they get to the game, it's gravy. It's Sunday dinner time. You're going to go and get your Sunday lunch. Okay, you're going to go and chase that beef. You're going to go and get it. Unfortunately, coaching soft, and I'm not saying you've got to growl at people at all, but you've got to be in a position where you are prepared to push your guys and have your guys at times get extremely frustrated with you. But when they shake your hand after winning a game or winning that individual battle, whether it's a light bulb moment or whether it's just something they've conquered, should be the point when you get the most reward. Okay, so all these little things and all these little intangibles that are never really spoken about are something that I take into consideration. If you're a new coach or if you really like to be academic about it, when you're starting off the season, grade your linemen. It's a simple chart, 1 to 10 on individual drills. And this is what I'm saying, only pick certain individual drills that cover something you want to be able to achieve. Stance and starts. Am I looking at a 3-point stance? Am I looking at a 2-point stance? Right, within that, am I looking for them to have their eyes up and Just mark them 1 to 10. Assess them every 2 weeks. If they go from 1 to 2, you're doing your job great, okay? Some people like to have a visual thing to work to. I have everything stored in my head. And I do not move off number 1 until I've achieved absolutely everything I can. As a coach, there really is no point sitting down. Again, I'm going back and watching YouTube and everything else if you haven't achieved number 1, because you're only selling your players short. These players look to you as a coach to get the best out of themselves. As an offensive lineman, you're pretty sadistic, you enjoy pain, you like dishing out pain, you're unselfish. Everything you do is for the good of the team. Okay, so you're always putting it out there. You're going to spit blood, the snot's going to come out your nose, your eyes are going to water, you're going to be injured. Yeah, you look to your coach to absolutely give you all the tools that you need to be able to achieve that end result, which is win your individual battles, which is to win that little bit of that battle that you can do on that little bit of turf that you're given every down. Okay, so understand that as a coach, try and drive that as a coach, and be prepared to go through that pain as a coach until you achieve that. Hopefully some of that's helped. If you need to talk to me about anything personally, privately, then message me. What I'll do is I'll move on to the next set of videos, which will go through different various schemes and things like that. So yeah,